The Rise of the Ogre, Chapter 4, Gorillaz on the March.
It's the music that we choose. 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 It's the music that we choose.
With the album riding high in the charts off the back of the Clint Eastwood sensation, the British press began to treat Gorillaz a little less like a flash-in-the-pan gimmick. Or if they did, it was a gimmick that maybe demanded a closer investigation. The UK press interest sparked a chain of excitement and analysis that still runs today.
Oi, Russel! What's the biggest meal you've ever eaten?
The overall impression was that the Gorillaz album, while perhaps a little contrived, was of an exceptional quality. Whilst admiring the extensive array of influences, it was generally also conceded that the unique way that Gorillaz presented themselves allowed people to collaborate in an original and experimental way. The Times gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Scratchy beats, hypnotic lo-fi dub and hip-hop sounds create an album that is as inventive as it is fun, executed with wit, flair and imagination. The Sunday Telegraph commented, "Zombie hip-hop, they call it, which captures quite well their loose, catchy, streetwise mix of rap, ska, pop, and dub, how Massive Attack might sound if you injected them with vast quantities of happy-making drugs." The Guardian noted that Gorillaz were steeped in old US electro, UK punk, world music, and Sly and Robbie. The paper also went on to say, Gorillaz are difficult to love, but impossible not to like. Amongst other things, Gorillaz were hailed as a specials for the new millennium. Music Week awarded it the coveted Album of the Week spot, and the magazine Mojo gave it a great review, ending on the line, "Electric, upbeat, and actually very good."
Actually? What do you mean, actually? These qualifying words the whole time, just tedious. Drop your inhibitions, kids. Come bathe in the sunshine of my love. There's nothing to fear.
There were also loads of other reviews with words like splendid or irresistible. I saw one which went alarmingly addictive.
Really? I used the word genius, gobsmacking, and supreme overlord of all I survey, almost on a daily basis back then.
Despite the praise, many reviewers still hedged their bets with the observation that the concept of Gorillaz had the ability to irk, while conceding that the music on offer was of high enough standard to override that. The fact was, the two sides were irrefutably linked. It was the unique way that Gorillaz presented themselves that allowed the collaborators to be less self-conscious and far more creative, producing the results achieved.
Christ! Cynical marketing ploy. This is just a huge load of crapola. I mean, all bands are marketed, dreamed up, conceived. Otherwise, it just comes across as a shoddy mess. You just have to check the quality of the manufacturer there, you know, seriously. We never put out anything that we didn't think was 100% as good as it could be.
So much of this is born out of the love we have for the bands that we looked up to when we were kids. Bands that looked and sounded great, put up on our walls. Artists that didn't let you down. It was important to us to pass that feeling on. Feel that we'd given the next generation something that was vital and valuable to them. Something exciting. Gorillaz was an expression of love.
This is freaking me out a little, actually. Was I born a gimmick, or did I become one?
Many of the reviewers for the Gorillaz debut wrote about the album in the context of the careers of the collaborators, sometimes overlooking the talents and input of the band themselves.
Damon Albarn's endorsement obviously opened up a whole load of doors for us. Although, when put in relation with his other work, I guess it could have looked like his association with us was taken as an opportunity for him to escape his more public persona.
It wasn't. He was an associate, never a member. None of the guests were. Anyhow, it was actually a blatant opportunity to create my more public persona. There's only 4 members of Gorillaz. That's me, Russel, Noodle, and what's his face. And to be honest, I've got my doubts about some of them.
Murdoc takes a slurp of some concoction he's holding.
And I tell you another thing. Around this time, I was watching one of those I Remember What Happened 20 Minutes Ago programs where they drag out endless fools to recount some turgid piece of nostalgia. I remember thinking, people should be kissing our ass for doing what we're doing. How are they going to make any new nostalgia shows if all they're doing now is making programs with people commenting on reruns of old programs? This country was stuck down a well till we came along.
At one stage, the press got so hectic, both Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett, in their respective roles as the album's associate producer and video director, undertook some of the Gorillaz press themselves.
Goal hangers. Every time I flicked on the TV, those two were on it. I had to throw it out the window eventually.
While the press and media may have played their cards close to their chest, Gorillaz fans had no such reservations. The album flew off the shelves and brought greater success to each and every one of its contributors and collaborators than any of them had experienced individually before.
The kids get it. I think the kids really get it. And that's what's important to me, to us. I think the world we've created, the steps we've made to change things, are just as important as any other musical movement. It's just that this movement consists of a single band. But what we've inspired is just as vast.
Most bands create an image to make themselves look like something cool. Gorillaz is something quite cool that's made to look like an image. I think that's why we work.
We had to do so many interviews around this time. I kind of wish we could have just got someone to write them down while we concentrated on the music. But it wouldn't have been right. So we did them ourselves.
Weird thoughts aside, it was time to go and play abroad. Murdoc quickly purchased 4 tickets for the Eurostar and a thermos flask of hot coffee, and Gorillaz headed à travers la Manche to France. Ooh la la. June 22nd, 2001. Gorillaz perform at La Cigale, Paris, France. With the album out and reviews flooding in, Gorillaz booked some more live dates abroad. Their first since the Scala concert back in March.
By the time I got to Paris, I was so hungry I could eat a horse.
Luckily, we were rolling into France, where horse meat is pretty easy to get a hold of for us. Bonjour, Paris.
The world's first virtual band pulled off something of a coup that night, playing to 1,500 people at the intimate and ornate La Cigale in Paris's red light district Pigalle, while simultaneously taking the show to the gathered masses of the World Wide Web, headlining the first ever virtual Glastonbury Festival. The real thing was cancelled that year after the organizers were prosecuted by the local council for breaking the terms of their license. The festival's migration to the internet was disappointing news for hemp-smoking hippies and loo-rolled sellers everywhere, but ideal for Gorillaz, whose headline performance on the Friday night drew hundreds of thousands of viewers around the world.
It's funny how different territories react to Gorillaz. In England, they love the record, but were unsure about the live show. In America, they love the record and immediately understood the way we present our personalities. In France, they love the live show.
They love me everywhere, Russell. Everywhere.
June 24th, 2001. Gorillaz perform at Dublin Olympia, Ireland.
I don't remember playing this gig at all.
With a clutch of US contributors on the record, it was always expected there was going to be a certain amount of interest stateside in Gorillaz, but no one could have predicted just how fiercely the States would react.
A long time before the record was released back in America, we went over to have a meeting with the label. Just to try to explain how we wanted to run this project. Because the way we go about things isn't immediately obvious to most people.
Really? That's so hard to grasp.
It was originally thought by the band's US label Virgin that this new British act, Gorillaz, would maybe shift 25,000 copies of their album at a push.
We went over there and explained face to face what we felt. Murdoc was quite direct, I remember. Shouting and kicking chairs, pushing people in the face. Because of the vehemence of Murdoc's speech, the projected sales of the album went from 25,000 to 50,000. And then, just before we released the record, the number they decided to ship out the shops went to 75,000.
The vision they had was just so inspiring. It was like working with prophets. Ooh, 75,000. Really? Big deal. Every time I prodded him, he went up by 25,000. But it still wasn't enough.
I don't think people ever really guessed it was going to be as successful as it was. A week before the record came out in America, I remember ringing the guy in America going, "Are you sure you've got enough albums?" And I remember him saying to me, "Yeah, it's all good, Mr. Hobbs. We're completely covered." And then what happened was, the first week the album was released, they ran out of Gorillaz stock.
Well, duh. I flew over from England, went over to the States, found the guy in his empty storeroom, and held a sign up in front of him saying, "I told you so."
But I think we sold maybe 150,000 or 200,000 copies in the first week, just in America. So the label was like, this is gonna go off.
Sound of apple landing on head as whole record company rediscover gravity. Eureka heard as water falls out of a path. Wheel rolls downhill. Headline reads, bleeding obvious discovered right in own face. Seriously, it's like teaching children not to put their fingers in electrical sockets. I told you loads of times.
June 19th, 2001. Gorillaz releases in the US. In scenes reminiscent of the Beatles, families camped out all night outside record shops in New York. Kids had to be hosed off the shelves. Anti-riot police were called to Walmart, and fights broke out in Super Denny's crappy little record squad. It was like a bushfire, and Gorillaz were squirting lighter fuel right into the center. One child apparently burst into flames just looking at the record cover. The reviews that accompanied the record were equally animated. Rolling Stone described the debut as a melange of hip-hop, electronica, rock and dub served up as gleefully catchy pop songs, one of the oddest albums to appear on the Billboard charts this summer, calling Gorillaz a prefab, cartoon, anti-boy band, genre-squishing art pop. Spin, who later named the record as one of the albums of the year, announced Gorillaz were smarter than the Archies, fatter than the Banana Splits, the best cartoon pop act since, well, D12. They went on to make Gorillaz best new band of the year, saying Gorillaz were a technicolor collage of backpacker hip-hop, Britpop balladry, and Jamaican dub. The blank page threw in this: like a musical grenade that's gone off in a lunchbox. Wired magazine enthused, seldom does an album come along that I find as innovative and interesting as the Gorillaz debut. Murdoc agreed wholeheartedly.
Seldom does an album come along that I find as innovative and interesting as the Gorillaz debut.
Only the Village Voice seemed to miss the point, commenting in their July 10th, 2001 edition. Within a year, the whole project might end up a mere blip of London nostalgia, and thus they'll be right on par with not only what they were worth in the first place, but with so many bands these days, including the girl and boy groups they aim to sabotage.
Oh, so Dr. Wessel's stolen someone's typewriter now, on par with not only what they were worth in the first place. What's that meant to mean?
Other than with the Village Voice, though, the Gorillaz band did seem to be making big waves across the pond.
I think they just understood the whole way we wanted to go. It took off in America very quickly. I mean, it really took off. The phones were ringing off the hook for all things Gorillaz. They wanted as much as we could give them.
The word you're looking for, Russell, is exploded.
Offers of remix work began to flood in for Gorillaz, with everyone from Redman to Bronski Beat seeking out the Gorillaz' golden touch. Furthermore, the cutting-edge, groundbreaking novelty act Gorillaz were asked to advertise or put their name to every product from under the sun, from soft drinks, wristwatches, tanks and snowshoes to egg timers, Harry Hill, bazookas and diving cleats. nothing seemed to be deemed too outlandish or inappropriate for this unusual and fascinating group. Almost universally, though, these offers were rejected, some quite forcefully.
I smashed a lamb shank right into the face of one of Bronski Beat once. It was nothing musical, just the sound of their screeching voices. I was trying to read and they were next to me arguing the toss over which useless song to cover next or some shit. I just picked up this shoulder of meat and whack! Knocked him out.
As Gorillaz' profile continued to rise, every celeb from the A-list to the Z-list wanted in on the Gorillaz action.
People went literally bananas for Gorillaz.
There were like 30-foot poster banners of our faces put up in Times Square in New York. That's when you kind of realize that maybe this ain't a local thing anymore. We had to speak to 4,000 radio stations in the first week. Just the phone was red hot.
Radio's wacky in America. I don't reckon the idea of talking down the phone to a cartoon was particularly unusual for them. They loved all that kind of stuff, you know? I could just phone them up, start cracking jokes live on air, and have a whole station in stitches. Sometimes they were laughing so hard they had to shut the show down.
We did most of our radio stuff in America. We did some in the UK, but in America, they really wanted to talk to us. Worldwide, the reaction changed from place to place. In Germany, they didn't get Gorillaz as a band at all, but really loved the music and the videos. But in America, boy, they got it all.
My hand swelled up like a bouncy castle, just from signing autographs.
Stateside, Gorillaz was seen as a brand new form of entertainment in their own right, without being received relative to their admittedly awesome collaborators. The band seemed like a superhuman musical force that exploded out of nowhere. The collective jaw of the United States of America would have hit the floor like a 10-ton weight if it wasn't wired shut. June 25th, 2001. Gorillaz' album enters the US chart, peaking at number 14. All of this was surprising, but what was really truly amazing was that Gorillaz had achieved all of this without performing a single live show in the US. This dispelled all myths that a band can only break the States with years upon years of pointless extensive slog, playing every backwater and toilet venue that America can supply. Gorillaz had skipped all of that. The debut album went on to sell in excess of 6 million copies worldwide.
6 million. Oh, that sounds quite good, doesn't it?
It seemed that Murdoc was making good time on his long-skated claim to international superstardom. His newly acquired sharkskin day planner was full of invitations to play golf with Alice Cooper and Iggy Pop at the same time. But the 19th hole would have to wait. Gorillaz had another single coming out. Oi, Mr. Hewlett, sharpen your propelling pencil. There are storyboards to draw.
You know, our new video is directed by legendary Chinese action movie maker John Poo, man. You know, when you're making one of these videos, you sit down, you go, okay, what do I think's cool? Buggies, yeah. The action is raw action, you know. Spent a lot of time. This ain't textbook stuff. This is straight out the Hong Kong book of John Poo. You know, Poo knows his shit.
Okay, cut. Murdoc, that was your Winnie Paco. Huh?
With Clint Eastwood and Gorillaz' album riding high in the charts on both sides of the pond, the band planned another new release. The 19 to 2000 video saw Gorillaz migrating from their native Kong studios and hitting the highway to film a road trip to end them all.
Wacky Races have got too, where all the cars and teams are racing each other around the world to win the title of the world's wackiest racer. I like Professor Pat's penning motor that could change into any kind of car you wanted. I told Jamie, and he was really well into the idea of doing something like that for the new video. So that's where the idea came from. Wacky Races.
Do you think the name Professor Pat Pending was a play on the phrase patent pending?
Yeah, Probably is.
Jamie had already commenced storyboarding on the proposed next single, which was originally planned to be the track 5-4, a far more caustic and spikier release. Unfortunately, a last-minute decision was taken to switch the single to 19 to 2000, leaving Hewlett with a minimal amount of time to rethink. The vehicle of choice for this extravaganza was their very own Jeep. Hand-built and designed by drummer Russel. The high-powered car came complete with power steering, twin airbags, and a loaded armory of concealed weapons. With Murdoc at the wheel, the four gorillas sped off on their action-packed adventure.
Murdoc immediately started taking liberties with the highway code and started driving the Jeep on two wheels and pulling stupid stunts and stuff.
We're making a video, dunce. I gotta pull crap like that, otherwise it's just gonna look boring. Boring.
Murdoc, with his evil chuckling and devilish plans, becomes Dick Dastardly. His sidekick, Muttley, and the whole of the anthill mob rolled into one inconsiderate road user.
I'm surprised no one slapped you with a giant ASBO.
In keeping with the understated eggshell-stepping approach of Clint Eastwood, gorillas are confronted by aliens, collapsed motorways, and of course, a roadblock in the form of a 300-foot moose.
Where were we going?
I've no idea. The director just shouted, "Drive!" So I did.
The Fab Four zoom along the planet-sized scalextric track, pulling foolish tricks and maverick moves until they hit the sky-scraping loop-de-loop. For some of the later stunts in the video, CG doubles were used. To have endangered any of the real members of Gorillaz would have been an insane risk.
No one told me that. I just sat in the buggy all day. I got to admit, when we leaped across that gap, I was pretty frightened. My seatbelt was all twisted too, you know.
This was the first time that CG models had been used to replace the real gorillas in any of their videos. However, for the loop-de-loop, Gorillaz wanted to perform the stunts themselves.
I can't have people thinking gorillas are chickens.
The whole loop stretched to over half a mile above the road and demanded that 180-mile-an-hour speed was maintained to keep the G-force levels sufficiently high.
It was quite difficult to do the lip syncing to the music when I was upside down 1,000 feet at that speed. We had to do several takes to make it look right.
Having successfully negotiated the 360-degree high-flying rollover, Gorillaz once again hit the Tarmacy Trail. Ignoring the warning signs, Gorillaz leap across a 200-feet cavernous drop created by the absent bridge. Then, with a right-handed detour, they pass up the opportunity of a Christation makeover offered by the Church of Salvation that looms up ahead. Predictably enough, Gorillaz immediately come under fire from an alien spacecraft. Was that real or a stage prop?
I don't know anymore.
Swerving the craft's laser beam, the band zigzag in and out of the enemy's sights. The petrol station they pass is hit by the ray, exploding dramatically and leaving the dopey gas attendant with just a seared hat and a burnt-out business. So, right, they've gone through all this kind of unbelievable nonsense, and then what happens?
When that 300-foot moose ran out on the horizon, I thought I was going mad. I mean, where the hell did that thing come from? I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it was pretty big. The average height for a moose up to the shoulders generally ranges from between about 6.5 to 7 feet. I think the one we used came in at about 290 to 300 feet, up to the shoulders. That's considerably bigger.
The moose was hired by Jamie from an animal actors agency and was used as a metaphor for creative intrusion, obviously. Furthermore, to gain an authentic on-screen reaction, he neglected to tell the band. Speak up. Where did the moose idea come from?
It wasn't a moose. It was an elk. A giant elk.
Easy mistake to make.
It was Jamie's idea. He didn't even tell us he was going to throw an elk into the mix, but apparently he based it on an old acquaintance of ours whose name was Elk. I don't know what he's on about at all.
You lost me at hello.
Through muffled, incoherent speech, I managed to ascertain that the giant moose represents a relentless, immovable stumbling block that stands between a creative traveler and the Valhalla of artistic potential. I know, sounds nuts, but I didn't come up with the idea, so don't shoot the messenger. with the hairy roadblock rising, action needed to be taken fast.
It looked really bored too.
Well, we soon put a stop to that, eh?
Murdoc attempts to clear the elk, yak, moose thing, with the skillful use of 2 exocet missiles that the Geep just happened to be armed with.
I never leave anywhere without being tooled up.
I'd be a fool to when you think of what goes on around us.
The heat-seeking devices fire out of the Geep, making a beeline for the head of the animal. Disaster strikes when the plan backfires. The mammoth beast sneezes, deflecting both bombs and sending them straight back at gorillas. The Geep and its cartoon contents are blown apart by their own weapons, with the buggy being left simply a smouldering wreck.
If the Bee Gees had to put up with any of the garbage we endure to make videos, they would have quit show business years ago.
Amidst a hail of burning tires and flaming shrapnel, the Gorillaz Geep comes skidding to a halt. Finally, the horrific Gorillaz gumball rally is over. What's more, they managed to complete the circuit in a record time of 3 minutes 17 seconds, smashing their personal best. The cinematic results they captured were worth the sacrifice, as the full-color epic was another near-perfect Gorillaz promo. The day's eyebrow-raising events weren't completely over, though, as a certain friend of Gorillaz made a lighting reappearance.
So check this out, right? We're doing a little on-set ident piece for some TV station, and guess what? That midget soul Dr. Wurzle trespassed in my Winnebago! Beeps the horn and chucks a beer can at me, which hit me in the head!
Murdoc stares at me with a look of total disbelief.
When I catch up with him, I'm going to pummel him until he starts coughing up onions. Seriously, I'm doing an interview and he chucks a beer can at me from out of my stolen wagon? Really? He's a dead man. I'm going to kick his lungs right off.
I thought I looked wicked in that clip. I was rocking a Hunter S. Thompson in Fear and Loathing top getup with the hat and pink shades. Triple Gonzo apparel.
June 25th, 2001. 19 to 2000 single released. June 29th, 2001. 19 to 2000 enters the UK charts at number 6. That same week, the new release from Hearsay, the artificial clay pot band composed of the winners from the Pop Stars, The Rivals TV talent show, topped the chart. Pop Stars, The Rivals was the UK predecessor to the more universally known talent slump, X Factor.
So we went in at number 6 the same week as Hearsay went in at number 1, with The Way to Your Love. Obviously, we hadn't manufactured ourselves quite as well as we thought.
I must ask them what we were doing wrong.
Oh! I think I'm all right. Sorry. Be out my nose, eh?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm all right. Sorry about that.
While the 19 to 2000 footage was shipped over to the Passion Pictures workshop for a wash and scrub up, it was time for Gorillaz to brush up on their Japanese vernacular and say konnichiwa to a whole new world. August 15th, 2001. Gorillaz fly to Japan. For their next set of promotional concerts, Gorillaz undertook the lengthy journey to the land of the rising sun, Japan.
We left Heathrow on August 15th. Murdoc was green and sick and ill. He hadn't slept the night before because he hates flying, so he was shitting himself. He acts all top, but he's easily scared, you know. Noodle just took the fast FedEx crate home, same way she arrived. It was looking like a long flight for us, 13 hours. But I just watched some in-flight movies. They showed Tim Burton's new remake of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It was good, but even though all the costumes are better, you can't really beat the original.
Oh, thanks for that, D. Essential information.
The Gorillaz arrived at Narita Airport in Tokyo at 9 a.m. and were immediately mobbed by ecstatic fans taking photos and offering gifts. According to 2D, they met Japanese film director Beat Takeshi, who expressed an interest in directing a Gorillaz film. August 16th, 2001. Gorillaz perform at Osaka Imperial Hall, Japan.
This was our first ever gig in Japan. Our concert promoter herded the audience into the center of the room and surrounded them with a cattle pen. The gig was mental, but weirdly these kids stopped dead at the end of each song and politely clapped, apart from the one kid who threw a cabbage at Murdoc. Noodle was treated like some sort of homecoming queen, but maybe she's got a lot of mates there. I thought when we played punk that they were going to explode, and soundcheck, gravity. Oh, it was so good I could see kids crying. I think the kids in Japan really understand where we're coming from. I think they see so many Aussie bands go there. Acting like big rock stars instead of giving them some really adventurous, and they're really open to it,
August 17th, 2001. Gorillaz explore the city of Osaka.
Everyone says Osaka looks like Blade Runner, but I reckon it's the other way around.
Brilliant. That's that solved then.
The city of Osaka was breathtaking, but throughout the day, a growing sense of melancholy began to creep over Noodle.
This was a very, very strange sensation for me. I hadn't been back to Japan for so long that I felt like a tourist, an outsider, Gisanh. It occurred to me that I really had no base now, no home. Something made me feel very sad. It wasn't immediate, but I believe this is when the dreams, the visions began.
Noodle's night was long and restless, with broken sleep. August 18th, 2001. Gorillaz perform at the Summer Sonic Festival, Tokyo, Chiba Marine. Bullet trains, crystal meth, and rice crackers. Summer Sonic is an annual 2-day rock festival held mid-August in Osaka and just outside Tokyo. Most bands playing in Osaka the first day go to Tokyo the following day, and vice versa, in the similar style to the UK's Reading and Leeds festivals. Other performers in the 2001 lineup included Ear, Beck, Primal Scream, Slipknot, Rancid, and Marilyn Manson. Gorillaz played Tokyo's Chiba Marine site on the dance stage. Gorillaz took the early bullet train from Osaka to Tokyo and spent the morning exploring the Shibuya and Harajuku districts. Despite the excitement, Noodle's mood was resigned and quiet, a doleful disposition that Russel picked up on. To lift her spirits, Russel bought her jacket from the store Tokyo has, which seemed to take her mind off her nomadic existence for a while. For himself, Russel attempted to purchase a watch with a laser in it that cuts people in two. Unfortunately, the store had sold out. Gorillaz arrived at the concert venue to perform a brief sound check prior to the evening set. The club that night was at full capacity, and Gorillaz played to 10,000, performing before the orb.
We were meant to be on stage at midnight, but in the end we went on about 3 in the morning, which all contributed with the eerie atmosphere. I had a strange feeling I was being watched.
Murdoc clamps his hands to his face and shakes his head.
Today, we played Summer Sonic. The Osaka gig was good, but the one in Tokyo was really mad. It was in this huge hangar, like a giant bus depot. All these Tokyo kids were whacked out of their heads on crystal meth. I wouldn't do that stuff even if it was free. Well, not if I've got to fly, because you get so dehydrated. Tonight we played Industrial Law and The Magic on IMAX.
Russell remembers the event being a little more surreal.
The kids were like zombies, just standing there swaying and staring. 10,000 kids, totally silent. They sort of just dropped down one by one after a while. Strange.
Despite the otherworldly reception, Gorillaz then went on to celebrate their last night in Japan at a karaoke bar. Russell took the mic for an ear-splitting rendition of Bronski Beat's Small Town Boy. It was during this that Murdoc was beaten up for spilling some big bloke's shake.
I was dancing and my foot slipped. These things can't be helped sometimes.
Sunday, August 19th, 2001. Gorillaz return to the UK.
Another 13 hours back, we only just managed to avoid the typhoon that had been threatening to hit Tokyo all week. It was really big that we were told about it. It would suck up the whole city. Murdoc was crapping himself. He thought he was going to be sucked off the plane, but it was fun.
The jaunt to Japan was felt to have gone very well. But in hindsight, Japan was initially very weary of Gorillaz. There was also a palpable sense of disappointment that Damon Albarn, as a Gorillaz collaborator, hadn't joined the band for the event. Or if he did, his presence was kept hidden behind the screens. Not the easiest idea for some people to grasp. Gorillaz were viewed by the Japanese as a side project for Damon rather than what it was, a brand new concept in worldwide entertainment. There was also a partial feeling that the combination of digital marketing and animation assets, maybe Japan had seen the like of Gorillaz before.
Yeah, people always expected that to be one of the places we'd go down a storm. But maybe with the first album, it was like shipping snow to Alaska.
We found out later that with Japan, most of the promotion is done way up front before the album comes out. And if the album doesn't take off, they kind of drop it. It goes cold. So we decided to maybe do something about it.
Gorillaz released the G-Sides compilation album, specifically designed as a reintroduction for Japan that would ignite Gorillaz' profile over there. It worked. The album would go on to sell 500,000 copies worldwide, a huge number for a collection of B-sides and remixes.
The G-Sides album worked very well over there. The record company has something more to focus on. You know, second time around it kind of clicked. They got it.
Hello America. I'm Murdoc, and we're Gorillaz. We'd like to thank you for this MTV award. It will take pride of place on my mantle, next to my upside-down rubber cross, and my signed copy of The Wicker Man.
July 25th, 2001. Gorillaz turned down the Mercury Music Prize. July saw Gorillaz ruffling more industry feathers with a controversial decision to turn down their nomination for that year's Mercury Music Prize. With odds set at 3-1 for them to win the award, and the possibility of generating up to 500,000 extra album sales, Gorillaz' record label were understandably panicked. Gorillaz stuck to their guns, however, and with marvelous eloquence, Murdoc Nichols released a statement to the press.
Mercury Award? Oh, sounds a bit heavy, man. You know, sort of like carrying a dead albatross around your neck for eternity. No thanks, man. Why don't you nominate some other poor muppet? I was bang on the money with that one. That one will sink your career faster than teaming up with Kevin Rowland on a concrete speedboat.
He may have a point, as Mercury winners, both previously and since, have been notorious for following up their award success with low-selling or even career-killing albums. Previous winners had included Suede, M People, Pulp, Gomez, Portishead, and Talvin Singh. It'd be fair to say the award did carry a certain level of bad fortune. Only Primal Scream, with their chemically strengthened, disease-deflecting blood, seemed beyond long-term affliction.
Anyway, apart from that, it's a fix. It's chosen by a couple of trendies who want to seem like they've got their finger on the pulse. It's the finger of death.
Gorillaz were accused by some of the press of being somewhat calculating, and the move just being a cynical ploy to boost sales. The award that year was eventually given to PJ Harvey for her album Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea, who in fairness may also have escaped the curse. Ironically, and to many people's amusement, the ice cool down of credibility created by this bold rejection was knocked askew when the following month, Gorillaz managed to slip very publicly on an unseen banana skin. August 2001. Gorillaz nominated for MTV2 Viewers' Choice Award. Gorillaz had also been nominated for that year's MTV2 Viewers' Choice Award for the single Clint Eastwood. Gorillaz was strongly believed to have won, having apparently received a tip-off from someone involved with organizing the event. In preparation, an acceptance speech was filmed, rumored to have cost in the region of £20,000, coincidentally the very amount that the Mercury Award would have provided. You can't make it up, can you? As it was, the engagement that had kept Gorillaz from appearing was cancelled, meaning that both 2D and Murdoc were able to attend the ceremony in New York. That evening, though, the combination of jet lag, a big meal, and a couple of strong woo-woos had sent Murdoc to sleep in his seat before the first nomination was even read out. His loud, phlegmy snoring disrupted the announcement several times. However, this was nothing to the disturbance caused when he discovered that the award he thought was definitely in the bag went to none other than Mudvayne, a clownish theatrical metal band.
And I think we're supposed to say this all together.
Oh, we
Ready? And the MTV2 award goes to Mudvayne.
Mudvayne!
What the? Who the fuck are the mudflaps? Fucking cunts! You're all a bunch of fucking cunts! I can't believe this! My bloody award! Listen to this shit! Can you believe this? It's supposed to be mine! Fucking cunts!
Murdoc stormed out of the building, kicking the back of every seat in the process, and with steam still pouring from his ears, returned to his hotel immediately. True to nature, Murdoc completely denied the incident and the loss of cool in the subsequent edition of The Face magazine. When the journalist suggested that Gorillaz had wasted $20,000 on an acceptance speech for an award that they never won, Murdoc went on to say,
You'd think that a publication such as The Face, with all of that experience, would shy away from printing information gleaned from rumor mongers. If you think I didn't get $20,000 of publicity out of it, then you're a bigger mug than your cover price suggests. I could stick $40,000 up your arse and still be in the block.
The Face, amusingly, then suggested that the cost of recording the speech would have been covered with the check from the Mercury Music Prize, had they not rejected the nomination.
Being artistically becalmed isn't worth 20,000 quid, especially after tax. When the albatross begins to putrefy, it becomes just a bloody pulp.
Indeed. Ultimately, though, the pre-recorded acceptance speech didn't go to waste. Gorillaz picked up 2 awards at the MTV Europe Music Awards later that year in the categories Best Dance and Best Song.
Actually, I thought the only award we won was for the best song and dance.
No, D. It was one in each category.
After the distracting debacle with the award shows, Murdoc decided to take his frustration and annoyance out by smashing up eardrums the length and breadth of the UK. Gorillaz hastily booked some live shows to cater for the mad bass players' whims. August 25th, 2001, Gorillaz played Liverpool's Creamfields Festival, performing in front of 8,000 people in the bugged-out tent before Orbital.
Bugged out tent? More like the buggered off tent. The second we started, the whole place turned into a mud bath. Great clumps of earth flying everywhere. And why are we always getting put in these geek tents? Sharing a bill with the Orb in Japan, Orbital at Creamfields. Load of balls, man. I don't get it.
September 2001 saw Gorillaz embark on their own 4-day fiesta around Britain, with all concerts selling out within nanoseconds of tickets going on sale, once again using the same technique as they had done for their previous dates. Gorillaz took their giant screens and the 4 members played behind the white sheets. As per usual, Del manifested dutifully for his Clint Eastwood and Rock the House performances. Their first flush of proper touring was a good novel experience. Gorillaz slipped into the secret glamorous world of ginsters, little chefs, sleeping on bunks, dreaming of tarmac, eternal sound checks, ringing ears, stale riders, sweaty post-gig t-shirts, and endless motorways. The bass player, Captain Nichols, purchased giant maps of the world, marking off territories he had yet to enslave. Swigging from a bottle of grog, he drew a trail round the globe, noting each country and continent he intended to bash on the head with his record. In the back of the bus, 2D attempted unsuccessfully once again to complete a Rubik's Cube.
It's always just the last 2 bricks. I can't seem to get the last 2 to fit.
A moron stuck in a moron's world. Nice chap though. Noodle used her time to talk to the vast nation of Gorillaz fans online. The website was now a heaving mass of users, the virtual online world of Kong Studios growing like some kind of doubling, cell-spitting amoeba daily. Gorillaz tribute sites were springing up all over the web, some as an homage, some as extensions to the original, and some simply set up to document and decipher the ever-evolving world of rubbish that Gorillaz lived in. One distinctively detailed site, Gorillaz Unofficial, was so fastidious in its documentation that Gorillaz themselves were keen members. Noodle, in particular, was a fan of Gorillaz Unofficial, frequently logging on to verify details of her own existence and making sure that she got her facts right in interviews.
2D only discovered that his own original surname was Tuspat from Gorillaz Unofficial. It has every fact, figure, and detail of all things Gorillaz.
I woke up one morning, yeah, and found one of the programmers from that setup just staring at me, taking notes. They're digital stalkers, I tell you. I was writing the lyrics to one new tune, and as I was doing it, they were appearing on that website simultaneously. They've got us wired up, seriously. This book will be on there before you've even finished it if you're not careful.
Meanwhile, instead of arguing like a dunce with the others over the PlayStation, Russel occupied himself with making beats and tunes on his new laptop. It was between Manchester and Birmingham that Hobbs programmed all the music for Gorillaz' track, The Sounder. He drafted in 2 rappers, Seye and Life from the rap duo Phi Life Cypher, to complete the vocals during the post-gig trek back to London. This track became a Rock the House B-side and later appeared on the G-Sides album. Time well used, eh? By the time Gorillaz arrived in London, the track had been mixed, mastered, and ready to release. On stage, the band played seamlessly on all dates right up until the London show. At the Forum, Russel dropped a beat in 5/4. The audience didn't notice, but it was enough to throw the rest of the band.
A momentary lapse of judgment. Some prankster had written 4 or 5 on my set list, and for a second, I had to do a recount.
Though, we played it a second time not perfect for the encore, so I didn't know what Murdoc's problem was. He did go mental though.
I think the whole fame thing was going to his head. We were in this together, not Murdoc's skivvies. I noticed that he began to dominate every interview more and more.
The reception from the audience at the Forum show was euphoric. Reviews of these concerts, however, ranged from benevolent approval to venomous criticism. The Guardian gave a fairly lukewarm appraisal, indicating that the Gorillaz album and the concert performance were good, but inability to see the live musicians made the evening drag somewhat. The NME adjusted their earlier opinion to suggest that the tunes and the show were just so-so. As gimmicks go, Gorillaz aren't even a good one. Resist at all costs. The doubts about Gorillaz that had been held in check in the album reviews were unleashed in full for the live reviews. The less affectionate notices for the Forum gig read as if the Gorillaz project was an empty intellectual exercise, a condescending way of pulling the wool over the audience's eyes. If that were true, it would have been the most pedantic, expensive, and elaborate way to humiliate a crowd since Francis Drake sailed to America just to pick up potatoes and tobacco.
The main complaint seemed to be that no one could see us other than in silhouette. but we assumed everyone would understand it was Gorillaz playing behind the screen. It was an exercise in devaluing the ego. The projections and the animations said everything that we wanted them to.
What is this? It's not like I smashed a pie into the reviewer's face. We played a gig. Chill out, mate. It was a concert, not a cocking art installation. Jesus. I'm going for a slash.
Russell took a positive attitude to the editorial mauling.
A successful person is someone who can lay a firm foundation from the bricks that are thrown at them. There's nothing a critic could say at this stage that could change the strength of my vision.
You know, behind every critic, I feel there's a really talented musician just bursting to get out. Oh.
Maybe we removed ourselves one step too far. We negotiated ourselves into a corner till our backs were against the wall. The archness of the screens was maybe a bridge too far.
Bloody belt. Walls, arches, bridges. It's a gig, Russ, nothing more. Not a lesson in architecture. Perhaps we can, build on this anyway. I'm not really bothered by all this. Why? Well, flick to the end of the book. I know how this story ends. I'll tell you another thing, right? I've had to overcook this a bit. It wasn't nearly as bad as we've made out.
What do you mean?
I'm telling you. Flick to the end of the book. By this point on the second album, the reviews were so good, it'll make you sick. Sick! If we make this bit about the form gig look a touch shoddy, it'll balance out the ending. Anyway, I won't say any more. I don't want to ruin the plot.
What? I'm not...
Look, it doesn't matter. Just shift your arseholes. We've got D12 coming over in a minute. Psst. Hey, yeah, you. It's me, Murdoc. Hey, did you enjoy the audiobook? Of course you did. Well, these don't come cheap, you know. Each chapter costs us on average $150 to create. Seriously. So if you consider donating to this project, to keep it alive, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you for listening, and remember, hail Satan.